Production support for Hot and Cold is brought to you by American Solar Technics, manufacturers of components for wood burning and solar heating systems. Hey, I'm Tom Gozzi. We're in the bathroom of our project house for week number 2 of the new season and the new project, and there's been a few changes, but we'll talk about them in a minute after we start the show officially. So I don't know if you remember from last week. You ought to. It was only a week ago. A few things have changed in here. The bathroom is purple. Actually, it's lavender. I'm told it's lavender or some color that I didn't pick it, but it's nice. I'm told this is a relaxing color for a bathroom or for any room. So we've done a lot of things in this room beside just painting. We've got a new ceiling in. We've got edge and center bead pine up with a coat of water-based urethane. Behind that is 2 inches of foam. You remember we had a drop ceiling. On the back side of the drop ceiling was 6 inches of fiberglass, and the roof was beyond that, and there was all these little granules. This has a metal roof on it, and all the granules that come off of asphalt roof, well, it was all here. It was a mess, an absolute mess. I choked for days breathing that dust and the fiberglass, but that's done. So we got 2 inches of foam up here, and this, we're going to blow cellulose on the other side of it when we're ready. We're not ready. We got too many other things going on. This wall here, we did 1.5 inches of foam. That's right. I have to stop and think for a minute. And put the sheetrock over. We stripped out, we opened up the whole wall, put the foam on. And what we were trying to do here was fit the new bathtub in. We took out the, if you remember, it was a, what color was it? It was a blue tub with the avocado surround. We tore this all out to the bare studs, and we had to make the bathtub fit again. So what we wound up doing was, in the back here, we sacrificed 1.5 inches on the back of the tub to bring foam in over it so we could get some insulation in between here and outside, which is there. We left the fiberglass in there. Then we sheetrocked it with moisture-resistant sheetrock, and we've tiled it. The shower is now ready to use. We've got an acrylic soaking tub, which is a little bit deeper than a regular tub, which is kind of nice for soaking. And there's one other place we put insulation. That's this back wall here. We put 1 inch. Now I'm confused. Yes, we put 1 inch on this wall. That's right. And we left. Again, we have issues with logistics of where we can put things and how much foam we could sneak in. We wanted to get a solid insulation barrier between the inside and outside, so that worked very well. And that went right to the floor and is caulked to the floor and to the ceiling, and everything is nice and tight. So these outside walls, this wall, that's got 2 inch, by the way. This wall, and the ceiling is done. Behind the cameraman here, if you just spin around that way, that would be counterclockwise right to there. This wall is not done yet. For some reason, I keep putting it off. One of the reasons is that we have an outlet here that is I needed to get into, and every time I go to work on it, it's getting dark, and I have to kill all the power to get this outlet out and change it around. So I've just been procrastinating on that, and that's not hard for me to do. But that's just a small wall. It's only 3 feet, so that'll be easy to knock off. Other things, we had a washer dryer hook up here, so we have the where we have 1.5 inches of foam. This was completely in the room before we nested it into the sheetrock a little bit, and we just have enough room to sneak that in. It's actually pretty good shape. One thing that's interesting, over here at the vanity, we've got a new vanity, by the way. and it's plumbed. The drain is plumbed. The faucet is not yet hooked up. That probably be later today. We got a ground fault interrupter. It's nice to see a ground fault interrupter in the bathroom, but this ground fault interrupter works for here. It doesn't work for anywhere else. So this outlet, which you would assume, one would assume, when you have a bathroom and there's an outlet here with a ground fault and one here is a standard outlet, they would be connected. They are not. So we're going to have to take this out, put a standalone ground fault interrupter over here, and that's pretty straightforward. Going to put one in the back of the door there because none of these are tied together, and this is the bathroom. Everything should have them. And where we have a washing machine over here, and this is on the bathroom circuit, we're going to put a ground fault interrupter there as well. So we'll have a lot of investment in ground fault interrupters, but you don't want to have anybody getting electrocuted in the bathroom. It's poor form. We had to run new lines up for the washer hookup because the old lines, as you recall, one was in the wall, one was in the room. They will now be right up against the wall here, and we're going to put a piece of wood here with the washer faucet. We've got a standard on-off faucet for the washing machine, and what's nice about that is you just flip the lever and turn the water on or off. Of course, the water should always be off when you're dealing with, when you're not using the machine. Toilet, we've got a Champion toilet, the low flush toilet. I kind of like the one-piece toilets, even though it's $100 more than the two-piece. It's a nice clean toilet. It's easy to keep clean, especially when you got sheetrock dust all over everything. This is temporarily plumbed right now to the old plumbing, which we're going to go in the basement later in this show. Remember I put off going to the basement last week? We're going to get to see it this week, and you'll see why I put it off for a week. But we've got that jerry-rigged for now. The tub we didn't disconnect. This, as I say, has been disconnected. And of course you say, but Tom, what about this floor? Well, the floor is kind of cool. This was a Home Depot product. It was it was either $375 or $390 something a square foot. This is slate, and it's random pattern. It's all different colors, and it's rustic. And as you recall, I like rustic because rustic hides a lot of mistakes that I could potentially make under the quotations of being rustic. We have not grouted it yet because we've been waiting on the painting. One thing we have that I've noticed in truly being rustic, this is tumbled tile. It is all over the place in terms of size, so it made it really difficult to get it to lay out. So you'll see some gaps are bigger than others. I started out with spacers, and we quickly said, the heck with the spacers, we don't need them, because there ain't nothing here that is going to be a uniform gap. You can see here we are in this corner. Look what we've got. This is a really relieved edge. That's minor. That's almost square. That one's almost square. And thickness varies too. So what I had to do as we were laying the tile is vary the thick, try to put the thick stuff at one side, the thin stuff at another side, so you're not stumbling. It's not that big a difference in elevation, but there's some. Last thing, in terms of prepping for the floor, well, I'll tell you what, let's talk about prepping for the floor after we take this break, because it's an important thing in a bathroom especially. We'll be right back. Hey, we're back, and we're looking at flooring, and we're talking about our slate flooring. This is the substrate we use. This is the cement board. It's got little granules of styrofoam in it to make it lighter. I hate working with this stuff, but there was a reason I wanted to use it here, and the reason was we've got a wet basement. It's an unheated basement. It was probably cold down there in years gone by. We're going to change all that, but I could see a lot of corrosion on the fasteners on the plywood subfloor. So I wanted to get this on top of that plywood subfloor for two reasons. One, to give me a little more thermal mass to help ride out any issues that we might have in terms of condensation. Bathrooms are normally very humid places, so we don't want to have condensation forming down where it cannot dry up to here. So this will keep any condensation that forms, I think, on this side of the subfloor. So we've got that down on the floor. I just wanted to show you some of these tiles. There's a proper side and an improper side. The improper side is the back side here. It's kind of striated for adhesion. You can see the difference in thickness. Actually, I think I got a thicker one here. I don't know. That's a thick one. These are just so cool. Actually, these are all the same thickness because I segregated them out, but that's kind of a great look. I like slate tile. A couple of negatives, you have a lot of imperfections in them, and they're kind of flaky. It's a sedimentary rock, and there's a lot of layers here, and what happens over time, and you can actually see the layers right in there. That isn't from tumbling it. That's the actual physical layers, and it shows up on all of these. You can see the layer here, and this is a good example of that flakiness. That'll bust off without too much effort. But in the right place, I think it'll look okay. I'm still debating. We've got to clean it up before we grout, which I'm going to do the next day or so. I'm still debating whether we put a sealer on this or not, and what kind of sealer we want to put on it to pop the colors a little bit, because when it's wet, it really is a lot more vibrant than it is here with sanding dust on it and all the rest. So we're just picking away at stuff, getting things done. We run PEX tubing under here. Here, let me show you here. We got some PEX tubing right here. This is the dilemma of this old house. They ran CPVC pipe everywhere, and CPVC pipe is kind of brittle. I'm not real crazy about it. So we've got PEX roughed up into here, and what we have here is the faucet itself has got a 1/2-inch female connections. So we've got a 1/2-inch male connector to replace what's here, that will then insert into the pipe like so. We'll put a crimp ring over that, and we're in business. So we'll take this out, put that in, connect up the pipe, and crimp it. That's another week though. That's a whole show just doing plumbing. But I think what we ought to do right now is we've looked pretty much at everything there is to see here as it stands today. This bathroom is almost completely functional. What else do we have to do? We've got to put some trim up at the ceiling. We've got a nice vanity cabinet, not vanity cabinet, a medicine cabinet that's going to go here. You notice Mr. Drywall and Paint doesn't do that where the cabinet's going to go hide it. So I may look stupid and may play stupid on TV, but I'm thinking. So I don't go any further. I just filled the hole so we don't have cold air coming in. We originally had 2 of these lights on either side. We took one off and took the better of the 2, cleaned it up, recycled it. We put compact fluorescent bulbs in place of the incandescents that were here. I don't think we're going to paint it. I think that oak is going to look nice when it's all done. Probably going to do a white plastic molding up at the ceiling. We've got white plastic baseboard for the floor again. It's a bathroom. It's going to suffer more from the wear and tear and the moisture issue that we have to deal with. And everything is caulked. We've caulked the interface between the tile and the edge of the tub, the countertop and the wall. We want to make sure that we can seal everywhere cold air might leak in and where moist, warm air might leak out, to make sure that we do not have these issues of condensation and mold and the rest, because we just don't want that to happen. So to the basement, where condensation and mold and everything else is commonplace. This is the good part. Come on inside. It gets worse real quick. So anyway, now that you're in, I can stand up in most of the basement. That's a good thing. We've got a dirt floor, and it is a clayey dirt floor. If we dig down, digging's good. That's the good news. The bad news is the digging is good because it's wet clay. I dug this hole yesterday. It did rain yesterday, in all fairness, so let's not get too fraught. But it's an old wet basement. We're going to deal with it. It actually could be a very exciting project. It is very exciting. It's a very muddy project. This is where most of the mechanical systems are in the house, right here. Now that's the main part of the house here. We're underneath the bathroom over here, in this end. There's a couple of things that were really kind of bad over here. One, way over in that corner, in that far corner, and I could go over there. I'm trying to avoid it, but I'll go over there for your benefit. Right here was the oil tank The oil tank was pretty funky because it's wet. The oil tank's made out of steel, so it's wet and it rusted. The legs actually had rusted away. So what we've got to do, there's actually a little mountain of clay here that's got to get leveled down. We need to get some good pavers, something solid to set a tank on. There was nothing solid underneath this tank. There was part of a block under one leg, but it was actually hanging off of the fill and the vent pipe. Not a good thing. The plumbing, I'm sort of, let's see, right underneath here is the vanity. Right over there is the toilet. The washer dryer hookup is over here. So it's all, the cool part about this is all the plumbing is pretty much centralized right under this general area. It's a sewer line going outside. You'll notice the sewer line is quite low and all this pipe is in the way. So one of the things we're going to do here is cut the sewer line back here. We're going to put what we call a backwater valve in, which is basically a check valve, just in case we're sort of on the side of the hill. If there was ever a problem outside, that would stop backflow from coming into the basement. We have a friend that happened to, and it wasn't cool. And we're going to clean all this up and get it up higher. We've got other plumbing issues as well, domestic water plumbing issues, which we're going to deal with next week with a new manifold plumbing system. The electric water heater is here, and it's wire nutted together, and it's all pretty messy. So there's a lot of easy, relatively easy mechanical stuff. It costs a little bit of money, but not too much money, that we got to clean up. Hey, look at that. There's the dryer wiring. It's hanging from the ceiling. We got to take care of that too. But we got to take a break. We got to take care of business. We'll be right back. Oh my goodness. So this is some of my foam that was put up here, which is kind of funny, isn't it? And it's a good thing. It's 3-inch urethane foam, some reasonable insulation value here. But where it's wet, you're going to get mold growing on the facer. So we don't want that in contact with really heavy-duty wet, or it's okay. I mean, there's not a lot of mold growing here, considering how wet the basement is, but we certainly want to make sure that we minimize the exposure to moisture. So this wasn't a perfect solution. It was reasonable, though. If we go over to here, I'm bridging the mud stream. Here's the kitchen sink. We've got galvanized pipe for the sink drain. That's got to go. We've got the water lines. Look where they are, right on the outside wall. They are insulated, but look at this one here. This is the hot water line. It's right up against that wall. Instead of moving it in, it's right out there. We have already run new water lines, so we're going to clean all that up next week as well. I'm so excited for next week because so much is going to happen plumbing-wise. And the other thing is headroom. This stuff is all in the way if you want to get around this basement. This was a hot air heating system. Right here was a nice piece of foundation work. We actually have a concrete slab that the furnace sat on. We had a hot air heating system here. This is the furnace. We've slid it off of here because it's going bye-bye really quick. Also, all the ductwork a lot of the ductwork is gone. There were ducts running all around here. Ductwork, usually comes down about this far. So I'm going around underneath trying to get around here to maneuver things. So we've eliminated a lot of that ducking and weaving that we have to do from the ductwork. There's a joke there too, isn't there? So that's going to get cleaned up. The water heater is going to go bye-bye at some point. We've got a new heating system going in. We're going to do hydronics in here. We'll talk more about that in upcoming weeks because that's going to be another, it is October and it is getting cold out. So there's a lot of things happening all at once, but there's still more. Tom, that wasn't enough? There's more in the basement over there. So here we are. It's kind of an L-shaped basement, so we're at the other end of the L, if you will. And what do you see over here? We see a lot of posts. We've got lally columns. We've got a couple of rough sawn 2x6s. Here we got actual cedar trees. We got 1, 2, 3, 4 cedar trees holding up the floor. This floor is only spanning about 14, 15 feet. We've got all this wood down here holding the floor up. It's an old post and beam floor. And because of the moisture that's down here, we've got rot, or we've got weakened things. There's been some areas that have rotted, and obviously some key areas have rotted. So we've got to clean this up as well. We also have to clean up wiring. The wiring is actually pretty decent, believe it or not. There is some old stuff here. A lot of the wires you see hanging down here, other than what I pointed out before, is cable wiring or satellite TV wiring. There have been multiple satellite TV installations here. That'll all go as coax cable. But there is some relatively good wiring that was put in by electricians. There's some goober wiring too that we've been uncovering. We're cleaning that up and getting rid of it and straightening it out as time goes on. Way down the end here, we've got a 100 amp electrical service that is, I don't like when people do stuff like this, you know? That's kind of chintzy. So I think this is going to move at some point. And we'll probably get an electrician in if we're going to relocate this. The big thing, maybe with a bullet, there's been a lot of bullets today, is the water line comes in here and is galvanized pipe. And it goes up here, and then it hangs a right and goes over here to the corner. And then it hangs another right and goes way across. See it hanging down over the wall there, by the wall? I don't know why it goes that way, but that's the way it goes. So we're going to be rerouting that. And the $64 question is when we go to reconnect, it's galvanized that goes out to the street. Are we going to get into trouble? That's an upcoming show. So anyway, we've got a lot of stuff to look at here, a lot of stuff to do. We've got seepage coming in through the wall here. You can see here this old granite is wet. This has been repointed fairly recently. Not a bad job. It's not a bad basement considering there's actually a cement floor here. Of course, I can't stand up, but what we've got to do, what we're going to do, take out a little bit of the remaining ductwork. We're going to take that out. We're going to redo the floor joists in a relatively petite area of the house. We don't have to redo the whole house. All the flooring underneath the bathroom has been redone, probably because it rotted away. This flooring over here is okay, but it's probably 32 inches on center. We go from here where there's two sister 2x6s to here where there's two sister 2x6s. There's 32 inches in between. That shouldn't be. We've got wiring that's going every which way. We want to clean that up. We got a little bit more old ductwork's got to come out. As all this happens, the house will become stronger and it'll become better. And if I don't lose my cameraman backing into wires, we're going to be okay. Tie that in with doing the stairs. First we got to do down here though, and this will be a fairly straightforward project. We'll spend more time undoing wire to get new flooring, new support structure in. And I think what we've got to do, the subfloor goes this way. The planks are going this way. So we're going to put a carrying beam across here, probably 3 2x8s, going side to side, 14 feet, with one post in the middle. And then we'll go this way with 2x6s to catch the floor. And it should be a pretty straightforward project. I think we'll do 2 sections like that, and the back section's okay. We can get rid of all this lumber. There's enough wood here to keep us warm for quite a while. So, you know, it's an old house. Maybe the fantasy project is that we actually dig out the floor. I could see this where we've got a window over there behind the cameraman. You can swing around. There you go. We got one window. We could actually do a some kind of daylight basement deal here because we are on the side of a hill. We have to go down probably 1.5 feet here, get out the old concrete and a lot of clay, get crushed stone in, a good plastic barrier, I think more than 6 mil poly, a piece of rubber roofing would actually work well, insulate and maybe a new slab. So, but that's, you know, that's something to think about in the future. This is a starter house after all. Right now, we just want to make it secure where we have seepage here. I think we're going to use spray foam once we get the flooring done, or the structure done under the floor. You can see I'm going in circles here because we got a lot of concurrent projects happening at the same time, and it's a little confusing, but I think we got it all straight. Anyway, we got to go because we are out of time, and I got to get back to work because this is not getting done if I talk on the TV show for too long. So we'll see you next week. If you have any questions, give us a call on the radio. If you know anybody who likes to dig out old basements, have them give me a call because, man, I don't want to do that part. Production support for Hot and Cold is brought to you by American Solar Technics, manufacturers of components for wood burning and solar heating systems.